Hey guys, Joel's coming at you with another reasoning session where I challenge the status quo of the wisdom of the world and the church. And today I'm going to be talking about the Great Tribulation.
Come now and let us reason together. Come now, we can talk it over.
Now, if you like these videos, give it a thumbs up and hit subscribe for more like content. I honestly make videos all the time, so that way you can stay up to date and also help the algorithm spread this message, because the time is now and people are ready and receptive to receive this message. But with that out of the way, I'm just going to jump straight into it. You know, there's a lot of talk about how all the commotion in the world is literally God's wrath because, you know, people have done wrong, and all the manipulation, all the violence, all the control that's been going on. But let me point something out here. Reading from the Apokalupse, we see, you know, the 7 seals, which are followed by 7 trumpets and then 7 bowls. All of those are pretty serious and devastating events that unfold at the opening and the sounding and the outpouring of all of these. For example, you know, the 6th seal, there was a great earthquake, and the sun became black as sackcloth of hair, and the moon became as blood, and the stars of heaven fell unto the earth, even as a fig tree casts her untimely figs when she is shaken of a mighty wind. And the heaven departed as a scroll when it is rolled together, and every mountain and island were moved out of their places, and the kings of the earth, and the great men, and the rich men, and the chief captains, and the mighty men, and every bondman, and every free man, literally everybody, hid themselves in the dens and in the rocks of the mountains, and said to the mountains and rocks, Fall on us, and hide us from the face of him that sits on the throne, and from the wrath of the Lamb. For the great day of his wrath is come, and who shall be able to stand? You know, this brings back the symbolism of Joel 2, where he says, Blow the trumpet in Zion and sound an alarm in my holy mountain. Let all the inhabitants of the land tremble, for the day of Yahweh comes, for it is nigh at hand. A day of darkness and of gloominess, a day of clouds and of thick darkness, as the morning spread upon the mountains. And the same is in the oracles of Zephaniah, where he says, The great day of Yahweh is near, it is near and hastes greatly, even the voice of the day of Yahweh. The mighty man shall cry there bitterly. That day is a day of wrath, a day of trouble and distress, a day of wasteness and desolation, a day of darkness and gloominess, a day of clouds and of thick darkness. But then right after that, we see an angel say, Hurt not the earth, neither the sea nor the trees, till we have sealed the servants of our God in their forehead. And then it goes over and points out that the number of these are 144,000. And then alongside these, there's a great multitude which no man can number, of all nations and kindreds and people and tongues, which stood before the throne and before the Lamb, clothed with white robes and palms in their hands. And one of the elders asked John, saying, What are these that are arrayed in white robes, and where did they come from? And John said, Sir, you know. And he said, These are they which came out of the great tribulation, and have washed their robes and made them white in the blood of the Lamb. And it's very interesting that the word tribulation is used, because that comes from the Latin word tribulon, which is actually a big board where they would sift grain to get the husks off of them. And we back up to the 3rd seal actually, and it says, Lo, a black horse, and he that sat on him had a pair of balances in his hand. And I heard a voice in the midst of the 4 beasts say, A measure of wheat for a penny, and 3 measures of barley for a penny. And see thou not hurt the oil and the wine. Well, what's this oil and wine stuff? Well, the obvious symbolism is that the oil is a symbol of the anointing and the wine is a symbol of the blood. So the elect are covered in this, and that's how they're sealed with the seal of God in their foreheads. Paul writes, Much more then, being now justified by his blood, we shall be saved from wrath through him. So the wrath is not for those under this covenant. And we see the people that are in the wrath, you know, they're not turning to source. They're actually cursing source to their very end. Even though they have time to turn and see the magnitude of source, we haven't even finished the seals yet, and we've already seen that the elect are taken out through having gone through the tribulation, and they're not to be hurt by the wrath. But the very ones that are wiped out at the end, the very one whom these plagues come to, it's a system of justice. You know, people want to talk about God as being absolutely good, and that's true, but God is also absolutely just and can't just change judgment. That's not fair. Judgment has to be fair. And then, of course, I'm not going to go through every single one of these, but we see the 7 trumpets, where a third of the land is burnt up, and then a third of the sea is wiped out. The sun, moon, and stars are darkened, and then this swarm of locusts come out of the pit. Yeah, it gets pretty intense, and then we move on to the vials. But what does it say at the end of those vials? We read from the fourth angel, who poured out his vial upon the sun, and power was given unto him to scorch men with fire. And men were scorched with great heat, and blasphemed the name of God, which has power over these plagues, and they repented not to give him glory. The fifth angel poured out his vial upon the seat of the beast, and his kingdom was full of darkness, and they gnawed their tongues for pain. So when you're gnawing your tongue, you're not just in pain, but you're angry. And they blasphemed the God of heaven because of their pains and their sores, and repented not of their deeds. And it goes on. And the seventh angel, when he pours out his vial, there were voices and thunders and lightnings, and there was a great earthquake, such as not since men were upon the earth. So mighty an earthquake, and so great. And there fell upon men a great hail out of heaven, every stone about the weight of a talent, and men blasphemed God because of the plague of the hail, for the plague thereof was exceedingly great. So we see that the people that are left behind, they're not righteous. They're not turned to source. They're actually blaspheming source to his very face. And that's the nature of the people whom the wrath is set for. It's not for those who've turned to source and acknowledge source and actually want source. No matter what choices to turn and actually come back to the fold, they're not doing it. These wicked people are not doing it. And they're the ones to whom the wrath is deserving. What we're seeing in the world now, this is not the wrath. This is the great tribulation. This is when we're tried and the wheat and barley are sifted, where we lose our husk and we actually get purified in that system of purification. It's much better to be purified by a tribulon than by the refiner's fire in the furnace. And that's the difference. We that have turned to source actually are covered from the wrath to come. We don't have to worry about anything, because what's unfolding is actually getting us to a place where we can better manifest the kingdom of heaven. This isn't the end of the world. This is only a trying time to separate the wheat from the chaff, and in order to get us to step into working with source and allowing source to bring to pass that utopia that we know we've come here to live in. That's our dream. That's our destiny, and that's in us for a reason. So it's time to step up and actually embody that, and therewith we can actually live our best life yet. What source has destined for us all along. Let's not hold back. Let's actually step up and embody who source has called us to be in this time. No fear of torment, no fear of destruction, no fear of being cut off. This is our time, because we were born for such a time as this, and all things are being made manifest for us to usher in the kingdom of heaven. So I love you guys. I'll check you in the next reasoning sesh. Joel signing out once again. Agape, Salaam, Namaste, Shalom. Get us to step into